ዳይሬክተራችን አቤኔዘር በትንሹ አምጥቶ ያሳየን ይገኛል ከቦሌ አየር ማረፊያ ወይም ደግሞ ከዓለም አቀፍ አየር ማረፊያ ወደ ካሳንቺስ ያለው መንገድ በተለይ እስከ በአትላስ አድርገሽ ወደ ኡራይል ስትሄጂ ያለው መንገድ በጣም የተለየ ቫይብ ነው የተለየ መንገድ አድርጎታልና እሱ መሪዎችን ወደ ለዚህ ጉባኤ የሚመጡ እንግዶችን ለመቀበል ክፍት ሆናል በዛ ጋር ነው እየተመላለሱ አሁን ደግሞ ሜክሲኮ ላይ ያለውን አቀባበል ነው ወደ ህብረቱ ጉባኤ ወደሚካሄድበት አዳራሽ እንግዶች ወደዛ እየሄዱ ነው ይሄንን በምስል ያስቀረን እኛ ከዚህ ከስቱዲዮ ደግሞ መቅደላዊትና እኔ ማንተነ ደግፈ ባልደረቦቻችን ከአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤ አዳራሽም ይጠብቁናል የተለያዩ መረጃዎችን 39ኛ አፍሪካ መሪዎች ጉባኤ ምን ጉዳዮች ላይ ይመክራል ከዚህ ቀደም የተካሄዱት የውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስትሮች ምክር ቤት ወይም የውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስትሮች ስብሰባ ምን ጉዳይ ላይ መከረ ምን አጀንዳዎችን አወጣም ብሩንዲ ካንጎላ የተቀበለችበትን መንገድ የመሪነቱን ጉባኤ ሌሎችም ጉዳዮችን እናነሳለን በአፍሪካ ህብረት አመሰራረት ከአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት የመጣበትን ሽግግር ኢትዮጵያ ለአፍሪካ ህብረት መቆርቆርና መመስረት ፕሮፖዛል ከመጻፍ አንስቶ እስካሁን ድረስንበት ደረጃ ያበረከተው አስተዋጽኦ ልክ ለጥቁሮች የነጻነት ቀንዲል እንደሆነች ሁሉ ዛሬም ለአፍሪካዊ ችግሮች አፍሪካዊ መፍትሄ በማፍለቅ ደረጃ በራስ አቅም ተፈጥሮ ሀብትን በመጠቀም የሀብትን በእኩልነት በመጠቀም ደረጃ ምሳሌ መሆን የቻለችበት ዛሬም አፍሪካን እያሰባሰበች ያለችበት ሁኔታ በውይይታችን ያነሳን ቆይታ የምናደርግ ይሆናል
እውነት ነው እንግዲህ ቀደም ሲል አንተም እንዳልከው ኢትዮጵያ በየቀኑ ታሪክን እየሰራች ለአፍሪካ አህጉር ለጎረቤቶቿ ምሳሌ የሆነች ተምሳሌትነቷን ቀጥላለች እንግዲህ በራስ ማንነት ዓለም አቀፍ ሐሳቤን ማራመድ ወይ ደግሞ ዓለም አቀፍ ሐሳቤን መገንባት የኢትዮጵያ አሁናዊ አካሄድ ነው ከዚህ ቀደም እንግዲህ እናቃለን የተለያዩ ስራዎች እየተሰሩ ነበር ከቅርብ ጊዜያት ወዲህ ግን ብሔራዊ ጥቅምን በሚያስጠብቁ ጉዳዮች ላይ ትኩረት በማድረግ ኢትዮጵያም ደግሞ ታሪኳን ገናናነቷን ይመጥናሉ የተባሉ ስራዎች እየተሰሩ ናቸው ቀደም ሲል እንዳነሳ ነው ደግሞ የአዲስ አበባ ለዚህ ኮንፈረንስ እንዲሁም ሌሎች ዓለም አቀፍና አህጉር አቀፍ ኮንፈረንሶችን ለማዘጋጀት ዝግጁ መሆኗ በጣም በሚታይ መልኩ ሁሉም የሚመሰክረው ነገር ነው እንግዲህ ይሄንን የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ኢትዮጵያ በየአመቱ ስታዘጋጅ ዝግጅቱም እያደገ ነው የመጣው በየአመቱ አዳዲስ ነገሮች ይፈጠራሉ በየአመቱ ይሄንን ጉባኤ የተሳካ ለማድረግ አህጉራዊ ትብብሩን ለማጠናከር የተለያዩ ዝግጅቶች ይደረጋሉ አሁንም ያ ነው እየተመለከተን ያለ ነው እንግዲህ የቀድሞ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት ሲመሰረት ቀደም ሲል አንተም እንዳልከው ኢትዮጵያ በአድዋ ድል ያገኘችውን ያንን ድል ነጻነትን ለማቀጣጠል አህጉሪቱ ላይ ነጻነትን መሻት እንዲፈጠር ለአህጉሪቱም ደግሞ እንዲተርፍ ነው ያንን ድል ማግኘቷ የሆነውና በአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት መስረታም እንደዚሁ ነጻነትን ፍለጋ አህጉራዊ አንድነቱን ሉዓላዊ የሆነች አፍሪካን ከመፍጠር አንፃር እንዲሁ ደግሞ የአፍሪካዊ ችግሮችን በአፍሪካዊ መፍትሄዎች ለመፍታት የተለያዩ ጥረቶች ስታደርግ ነበር ኢትዮጵያ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት ከዚህ ቀደም ቅኝ ግዛትን በቃ የማለት ጥገኝነትን የመዋጋት አካሄድ ነበር የነበረው አሁን ወደ አፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት እንደ አውሮፓውያን አቆጣጠር በ2002 ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት ከተቀየረ በኋላ ግን አንድነትን በሚያመጡ ጉዳዮች ሰላምን በሚያረጋግጡ ልማት ላይ ትኩረትን ተሰጥቶ እንደ ህብረቱ ያ ነው እዛ ላይ ነው እየተሰራ ያለው ከዚህ ቀደም እንግዲህ የአንድነት ድርጅቱ በአባል ሀገራት ውስጥ የውስጥ ጉዳይ ላይ ጣልቃ የማይገባበት ነበር አሁን ደግሞ ለውስጥ ጉዳይም ውስጥ ለሀገራቱ በውስጣቸው ለተፈጠረው ችግርም ያለምንም ልዩነት የሚያይበት መፍትሄ ለማምጣት የሚሰራበት አካሄድ ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት ከተለወጠ በኋላ ይሄንን ልዩነቱን ተቋሙ ራሱ ከተገነባ በኋላ በየጊዜው እየጨመረ የመጣውን ሚናውን መመልከት እንችላለን በሰላምና ደህንነት አንፃርም ከዚህ ቀደም የተገደበ ሚና ነበረው የአንድነት ድርጅቱ አሁን ላይ ደግሞ በቶሎ ጉዳዮችን ተመልክቶ በቶሎ መፍትሄ እንዲሰጥ ማሳሰብ የተለያዩ መመሪያዎችን ማውጣት እንዲሁ ደግሞ ወደ ውይይት እንዲመጣም ችግሮች ተፈተው ሰላማዊ የሆነ ቀጣናም ለመፍጠር እንደዚሁ የተለያዩ ስራዎችን ይሰራል ኢኮኖሚ በማስተባበር ደረጃም ደግሞ ደካማ የሆነ የማስተባበር ሂደት ነበረ ከዚህ ቀደም አሁን ላይ ግን በመሰረተ ልማቶች በንግድም ይሁን ጠንካራ አህጉርን ለመፍጠር የንግድ ትስስሩንም በማሳለጥ ረገድ ጠንካራ የሆነ ድጋፍን ያደርጋል ህብረቱ
ኢትዮጵያ በነገራችን ላይ ከቀጠናው ሀገራት ጋር ተባብሮ በመስራት ረገድ በጣም በተምሳሌትነት የምትጠቀስ ሀገር ነች ከዚህ ቀደም በፒስ ኪፒንግ ወይም ሰላም በማስከበር ጉዳይ ላይ የንግድ ትስስሮችን አሁን ደግሞ በኃይል አቅርቦት ቀጠናው ሀገራት ላይ በኃይል አቅርቦት ላይ ትልቅ ትኩረት ሰጥታ ተምሳሌትነቷን እያሳየች ነው በውሃ ሀብት አጠቃቀም ረገድ ሁሌም የምታነሳው ጉዳይ ፍትሃዊነት ነው ብቻ ልጠቀም የሚል አቋም የላትም ውሃን መሰረት አድርጎ የሚሰሩ የኃይል አቅርቦቶች በሙሉ ሄደው መልሶ ቀጠናው ሀገራት ላይ የሚገቡ ተጠቃሚ የሚሆኑት የቀጠናው ሀገራት ናቸው በዛ ጉዳይ ላይ የሚነሱ አንዳንድ አለመግባባቶችን ሁሌም በጠረጴዛ ዙሪያ ለመፍታት በተለይ ደግሞ አፍሪካዊ መፍትሄ አፍሪካ መጀመሪያ እኛ እናወራበት እኛ እንነጋገር መፍትሄው እኛ ጋር ነው የሚል ሀሳቦችን በማምጣት በጣም ትታወቃለች። አሁንም የ39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ትኩረት ያደረገበት ዘላቂ የውሃ አቅርቦትና የንጽህና አጠባበቅ ጉዳይ ላይ ነው። የዚህ ሀገሪቱ ኢኮኖሚ ማህበራዊ ጉዳዮች እድገት መሰረት ነው ተብሎ ስለሚታሰብ የንጹህ ውሃ አቅርቦት ጉዳይ እንደዚሁም ደግሞ የንጽህና አጠባበቅ ጉዳይ በጣም በዚህ በ39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤዎች ላይ በጣም ትኩረት አድርገው መሪዎች በሙሉ የሚወያዩበት ጉዳይ ነው። በነገራችን ላይ ኮንፈረንስ ጉዳይ ካነሳን ጉባኤዎችን በማስተናገድ ረገድ በየአመቱ አሁን እየተሰሩ ባሉ የመሰረተ ልማቶችን ከተማን የማዘመንና የማስዋብ ስራዎች አዲስ አበባ ዓለም አቀፍ ቱሪዝም ኮንፈረንስ የመሆን ነገር በጣም እየሰፋ ነው። ትናንትና የመጀመሪያውን የአፍሪካን ኢጣሊያን ጉባኤ ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ በአፍሪካ ባህጉር ሲደረግ እዚህ አዲስ አበባ ላይ ትናንት አፍሪካ ኮንቬንሽን ማዕከል ምሽት ላይ የነበረው ትልቅ ጉባኤ ነበረ። የነበረውን ሴታፕ ከዚህ ከኢቨንት ዝግጅት ጋር አንጻር ብታይ ሴታፑ በጣም የሚገርም ነበረ። በጣም ሰክሰስፉል ነበረ። ስኬታማ የሚባል እጅግ በጣም ውጤታማ የሆነ ጉባኤ ነበር የተካሄደው። ይሄ በጣም ትልቅ ማሳያ ነው። ወደፊት ብራዚል ላይ ተረከብነው የአየር ንብረት ለውጥ ጉባኤ የምታስተናግድ ኢትዮጵያ ነች። ከዛ አንጻር በጣም በርካታ ዝግጅቶች እያደረገች ትገኛለች። ይሄ እንደ ዊትነስ ወይም እንደ ማስረጃ ማሳያ ተደርጎ ይታወቃል። በነገራችን ላይ የአፍሪካ ህብረት ወይም ቀድሞ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት ምስረታ ሲደረግ ዛሬ ላይ የምናያቸው የምንገለግልባቸው አንቲክ የሆኑ ወይም ደግሞ ቅርስ ሆነው የተቀመጡ ትልቅ ሆቴሎች የተመሰረቱት የዛሬ እንግዲህ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት ምስረታ ጋር ነው። አሁን ደግሞ ከአየር ንብረት ለውጥ ጉባኤ ጋር ተያይዞ ደግሞ አዳዲስ ሆቴሎች ደግሞ በመገንባት ላይ ይሄ እንደ ሀገርም በጣም ብዙ የቱሪዝም እድሎችን የስራ እድሎችን የማስፋት በዓለም አይን ላይ ትልቅ ትኩረት የማድረግ ነገርም ይኖራል ብለን እናስባለን። ዛሬም 39ኛ የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ እነዚህን የሚመክሩባቸውን አጀንዳዎች ጨምሮ ሌሎችም ጉዳዮች ላይ ውሳኔ ያሳልፋሉ ተብሎ ይጠበቃል። በነገራችን ላይ እስካሁን ካለው ከጉባኤው ቀደም ሲል አንቺም እያወራሽኝ በመሀል ሳይ የነበረው በጣም በርካታ መሪዎች ሪፕሬዘንታቲቭ አይደለም ፕሬዝዳንትና ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትሮች በርካታ የአፍሪካ ሀገራት መሪዎች የተገኙበት ጉባኤ ነው። 39ኛ የአፍሪካ መሪዎች ጉባኤ ከሐሙስ ጀምሮ በጣም በርካታ መሪዎች እየገቡ ይገኛሉ። እስካሁን እስከ ማለዳ ድረስ እንኳን እስከ ደቡብ አፍሪካ ፕሬዝዳንት ሲሪል ራማፎሳ ድረስ በጣም በርካታ መሪዎች ወደ አዲስ አበባ እየገቡ ነው። ቀደም ሲል ያነሳሻቸው ሀሳቦች በጣም የሚንሸራሸሩበትና የሚነሱበት ነው። አፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤ ላይ ሶስቱም ባልደረቦቻችን እኛን እየጠበቁ ነው። ሰለሞን አበጋዝ፣ መታሰቢያ ደረጀና ሮዛ መኮንን እዛም ይገኛሉ። እኛም ከዚህ ጉዳይ መረጃዎችን እየሰጠን ቆይታ የምናደርግ ይሆናል።
አዎ ቀደም ሲል አንተም እንዳልከው ነው። በትላንትናው የጣሊያን አፍሪካ ጉባኤ ላይ ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር አብይ አህመድ ምንድን ያሉት ኢትዮጵያ ሌላውን የተቀረውን የአፍሪካ ሀገር ከዓለም ሀገራት ጋር የምታገናኝ ድልድይ የሆነች ነው ብለዋል። ይሄን ደግሞ በየዘመናቱ የምናየው ነገር ነው። ቀደም ሲል እንደተመለከት ነው ትንሽ እንኳን ወደ ኋላ መለስ ብለን ብንመለከት በነጻነት ፍለጋ ጉዞ ውስጥ የኢትዮጵያ ሚና በአድዋ ድል የተፈጸመው ታሪክ ለሁሉም የአፍሪካ ሀገራት ፈርቀዳጅ የነበረ ታሪክ ቀያሪ ጀብዱ ብለን ልንጠራው እንችላለን። ያ በማነሳሳት ሁሉንም የአፍሪካ ሀገራት ነጻነታቸውን እንዲፈልጉ በራስ መቆም የሚለውን ሀሳብ እንዲያጠናክሩ የሆነ ነው። እንግዲህ ኢትዮጵያም ለነጻነት እንቅስቃሴና ለአህጉሪቱ አንድነት ድጋፍ በማድረግ የረጅም ጊዜ ታሪክ አላት። አሁን ደግሞ ቀደም ሲል እንዳልነው ዘመኑን መስላ ለአፍሪካውያን ተምሳሌትነቱን ቀጥላለች። በራስ አቅም መጠቀም የሚለውን እንደ ሀገር ኢትዮጵያ የምታቀዳቸውን እቅዶች በማሳካት ለሁሉም ሀገራት ተምሳሌት መሆን ይችላለች። እየተሰሩ ያሉ ስራዎች ለውጣቸው የሚታይ ሆኖ በሁሉም ዘንድ ሊመሰከር የሚችል ነው። አዲስ አበባን ከዚህ ቀደም ይመጡባት የነበሩ መሪዎች ለዚሁ ጉባኤ አሁን ሲመጡ የሚያዩት ነገር ትልቅ ታሪክ ትልቅ ስራን እየተሰራ እንደሆነ በዝምታ ውስጥ ራስን በመሆን ውስጥ እየተሰራ እንዳለ ማሳያ ነው። አንዳንዴ የሆነ ነገር አለኝ ብለ ስላወራ እንደዚህ አይደለም። ስራህን እየሰራ ውጤቱ ራሱ መስካሪ ሆኖ ስለሚቀርብ ያንን ማንሳት እንችላለን። በዚህ አመት መጀመሪያ ራሱ ነሐሴ አካባቢ የተመረቀው ታላቁ የኢትዮጵያ ህዳሴ ግድብ እንደዚሁ ኢትዮጵያ ያሏትን የተፈጥሮ ጸጋዎች በማልማት የተፈጥሮ ሀብቷን ስራ ላይ ማዋል እንደምትችል የራሷን አቅም ሀብቷን መጠቀም እንደምትችል ትልቅ ማሳየት የሚችል ነው። በቱሪዝሙም እየተሰሩ ያሉ ስራዎችን መመልከት እንችላለን አይደለም። የተደበቀውን መግለጥ አዋራን ማራገፍ እያልን ብዙ ብለናል ስለ ቱሪዝም መዳረሻዎችና የሌለ ነገር አልተፈጠረም። ያለውን ግን እይታ ይፈልግ ነበር ታየ። ከዛ ደግሞ በምን መልኩ ይውጣ የሚለው ነገር ተመከረበት። ባለሙያዎች ተባሰቡና ያንን እያየን ያለነውን ስራ ተሰራ። ስለዚህ ይሄ ደግሞ ኢትዮጵያ ለአፍሪካ ተምሳሌትነቷን የምትቀጥልባቸው ነገሮች ሌላ ግብርናውንም ማንሳት እንችላለን። በግብርና እየተሰሩ ያሉ ስራዎች ከዚህ ቀደም የበጋ ስንዴ ልማት ከዚህ ቀደም የማይታረስባቸው አካባቢዎች እህል ያበቅላሉ ተብሎ የማይገመቱ አካባቢዎች ራሱ እህል ያመረቱ ከራስ አልፎ ወደ ውጪ ኤክስፖርት ለማድረግ የተለያዩ ስራዎች ይሰራልና በብዙ መልኩ ብንመለከት ኢትዮጵያ የሰው ሀብቷንም በመጠቀም ያው የአፍሪካ ሀብቷ ህዝቧ ነው ይባላል አይደለ? ብዙ ጊዜ የተፈጥሮ ሀብቱ እንዳለ ሆኖ የህዝብ ሀብትም አላት። የወጣት የስራ ኃይል መስራት የሚችል ትውልድ አለና ያንን ደግሞ ወደ ውጤት ለመለወጥ ኢትዮጵያ እያሳየች ያለችው ተነሳሽነት በሁሉም ዘንድ ሊመሰከር የሚችልለት ሀቅ ነው ያስባለሁ።
ሌላው እዚህ ላይ መነሳት ያለበት ዲጂታል 2030 ላይ የተቀመጡ ግቦች ናቸው። ኢትዮጵያ ወይም እንደ አፍሪካም ተምሳሌት የሚያረጋት ዲጂታላይዝድ ለማድረግ እየሄደችበት ያለው እያንዳንዱን አገልግሎትና አሰራሮችን ዲጂታላይዝ ለማድረግ የምትሄድበትን ርቀትም ማንሳት እንችላለን። ትልቅ ሀሳቦች አሉ። ቀደም ሲል ያነሳሻቸው ሀሳቦች አሉ። በራስ አቅም ማሳያ የሆኑትን ታላቁ ህዳሴ ግድብን ጨምሮ አሁን በቅርቡ እንኳን ከቱሪዝም አንፃር እየተመረነ ጎርጎራን መመልከት እንችላለን። ሸበሌ ሪዞርትን በቅርቡ የተመረቀውን ተመልከች ቤኑና ማየት እንችላለን። ከዛ ውጪ ጂኦተርማል ላይ ያሉትም ከንፋስ ኃይል ማመንጫ እየተመረቁ ያሉትን ብትመለከቺ ውሃን ብቻ አይደለም ከንፋስም ካሉን በቃ ተፈጥሮ በሰጠችን ነገር ሁሉ ተጠቅመው ኃይልን የማመንጨት ኃይልን ደግሞ ከጎረቤት ጋር ሼር ማድረግ ኦኬ ሼርድ ፓወር የሆነ ሼር ዲቪዥን የሆነ አካሄድን መከተላ ኢትዮጵያ በህብረቱ አይን ውስጥ በበጎ እንድትታይ ያድርጓታል። በተደጋጋሚ እነዚህን ጉባኤዎች ባስተናገደችባቸው ጊዜያቶች በሙሉ በጣም ስኬታማ ናቸው። እስካሁን በጣም በርካቶቹ መሪዎች ገብቷል። ፊት ለፊት ላይ እንደምንመለከተው እንግዲህ የአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤ አዳራሽ እንግዶች እየገቡ ይገኛሉ። ከጥቂት ደቂቃዎች በኋላም የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ይጀመራል። ባልደረቦቻችን ከዛ መረጃ የሚሰጡን ይሆናል። ቀደም ሲል እናነሳሽው የዚህ የንጽህና አጠባበቅ ሳኒቴሽን ኔግሮ ዲክላሬሽን ላይ የተቀመጡ አተገባበሮችን በስፋት የሚፈትሽም ይሆናል። በተለይ የተፋሰስ ልማት ስራዎች ላይ አሁን በጣም አንዱ ምሳሌ ሆነችበት ነው። ለምሳሌ እኔ እንኳን ሄጄ በቅርቡ የተሳተፍኩበት ወይም ያየሁት አንድ ወርመል ፕሮጀክትን ብትመለከች በኢሪጌሽን ላይ በጣም የሚገርም ነው። መላውን ባሌን ይዞ ሄዶ እስከ ሶማሌ ድረስ የሚሄድ ተፋሰስ ነው። ያን ሁሉ ረጅም ኪሎ ሜትር በተፋሰስ ሁሌ ዝናብ መጠበቅ የለብንም፣ ወንዞቻችንን በመጠቀም ማልማት አለብን የሚለን ሀሳብ ግን ደግሞ መሬት ወርዶ የማሳየት ነገር አለ እና እነዚህ ስራዎች ደግሞ ቀጥታ ሄደው ምንድነው ግሪን ፕሮጀክት ላይ ወይም አረንጓዴ ስራ ላይ ምድርና አረንጓዴ የማልበስ ስራ ላይ የግሪን ሌጋሲ ስራ ላይ የሚንጸባረቅበት ሁኔታን በጣም መመልከት እንችላለን። እነዚህ ተያያዥ ጉዳዮች በሙሉ በዚህ በ39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ላይ የውሃ አቅርቦትና አስተማማኝ ንጽህና አጠባበቅ ስርዓት ማረጋገጥ የሚለው ላይ ሌሎች ንዑስ አጀንዳዎች ሆነው የሚነሱበት ሰፊ ውይይት የሚደረግበት መሪዎች ትኩረት ሰጥተው ውሃና የንጽህና አጠባበቅ ላይ ዜጎችን መሰረታዊ የሆነ በጣም የተደላደለ ጤናማ ዜጋ ለመፍጠር እነዚህ ሁለት ወሳኝ ጉዳዮች ትኩረት ተደርገውን ይመከርበታል ብለን ተስፋ እናደርጋለን። ሌላው ድንበር ተሻጋሪ የውሃ ሀብት ትብብርን የተመለከተ ነው። ቀደም ሲል ያልኩሽ ናቸው። ውሃ አለ ኦኬ፣ እሱ እንዴት እንጠቀም፣ ኃይልን ደግሞ ከቀጠናው ሀገራት ጋር እንዴት እናሳስር፣ አንዱ ኢኮኖሚክ ኢንቴግሬሽን ወይም የኢኮኖሚ ትስስር የምንፈጥርበት ይሄ ነው የሚለውን ጉዳይ ኢትዮጵያ በተግባር ያሳየችበት ነው።
የኢትዮጵያ ደግሞ የዘወትር አቋም ነው አይደለ? በቀጠናው ሀገራት ላይ እንደ አፍሪካም በጋራ እንጠቀም፣ በጋራ ትብብር እንልማ የሚል የጸና አቋም አላት። ይሄንንም በተለያዩ ጊዜያት ታንጸባርቃለች። በዚህኛውም ደግሞ በአፍሪካ ህብረት በዚህኛው 39ኛው ጉባኤ ላይ ኢትዮጵያ ብሔራዊ ጥቅሟን በሚያስጠብቁ አህጉራዊ ትስስርን በሚያጠናክሩ ጉዳዮች ላይ ከፍ ባለ ደረጃ እንደምትሳተፍ ነው የውጭ ጉዳይ ሚኒስቴርም በመግለጫው ያሳወቀው ማለት ነው። የውሃ ሀብት እንግዲህ በትብብር መጠቀም የሚለው ሁልጊዜ ኢትዮጵያ የምታነሳው ነገር ነው። እንግዲህ ሌላው ደግሞ እንድናነሳ የፈለኩት ነገር ምንድነው አፍሪካ እንግዲህ ራሷን በማፈርጠም በዓለም አቀፍ ደረጃ ውሳኔ በሚሰጡባቸው ጉዳዮች ላይ ፕሬዘንሷን እያሳደገች ነው የምትገኘውና አባል ሀገራቱም እንግዲህ ግንኙነት የጋራ ተጠቃሚነትና መከባበር ላይ አድርገዋል። ከዚህ ቀደም እንግዲህ በቅኝ ግዛት የነበረው አቅምን የማሳጣት የማዳከም ጥገኝነት ላይ እንዲቆይ የማድረግ የሰው ኃይልን ያለመጠቀም እንዲሁ ዝም ብሎ እርባና ቢስ የሆነ አይነት ስሜትን በመዝራት እየተሰራ የነበረው ስራ በኢትዮጵያ እንግዲህ በአድዋ ድል አድራጊነት ሁሉም ነጻነቱን አስጠብቆ ሉዓላዊነቱን አስጠብቆ መኖር የሚለውን ነገር ተላምዷል።
የአፍሪካ እናቁላቸዋለን እኛ ስለሰረኛ እናቀለን
ሚለውን አስተሳሰብ ፈጥሯልና የኢኮኖሚ ትብብሩ እንግዲህ የአፍሪካ ያባል ሀገራቱ አሁን ላይ ወደ በተለይ ደግሞ ቀደም ሲል እንዳለው ከ2002 እንደ አውሮፓውያን አቆጣጠር ጀምሮ ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት ከተቀየረ በኋላ ህብረቱም እንደ አባል ሀገራቱም የኢኮኖሚ ትብብራቸውን ለማጠናከር ቅድሚያ የሚሰጡት ጉዳይ ነው። በአህጉሩም ደግሞ የንግድ የመሰረተ ልማትና የቀጠናዊ ትስስርና የተረጋገጠ ልማትን ለማስፈን እንግዲህ ወሳኝ መሆኑ በተለያዩ ጊዜያት የሚነሳ ጉዳይ ነው። በአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤም በጣም ብዙ ሀሳቦች ይነሳሉ። በየአመቱ አባል ሀገራቱ የተስማሙበት አጀንዳ ዋና ጉዳይ ተደርጎ ወይ ደግሞ መሪ ቃል መሪ ሀሳብ ተደርጎ ስምምነት ከተደረገበት በኋላ ውይይት የሚደረግበት ጉዳይ ነው። ቀደም ብሎ ደግሞ በሚኒስትሮች ምክር ቤት የሚኖረው ስብሰባ ይህንን ጉዳይ እንዲወያዩበት አጀንዳ አጽድቆ ለዚህኛው ጉባኤ ያሳልፋል። የልማት ስራው፣ የሰላም ጉዳይ፣ በአባል ሀገራቱ መካከል ትብብርን ለመፍጠር የአንድነት የተረጋጋ ልማት በርካታ ጉዳዮች በጉባኤው የሚነሱ ናቸው። እንቀጥላለን እንግዲህ ተመልካቾች። አሁን ደግሞ ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት ጊዜያዊ ስቱዲዮ እንውሰዳችሁና ባልደረቦቻችን ሮዛ መኮንን፣ መታሰቢያ ደረጀና ሰለሞን አበጋዝ እዛ ይገኛሉ። ከነሱ ጋር ደግሞ ጥቂት ቆይታን ታደርጉና የሪፖርተሮቻችንን ገብተው ተጨማሪ መረጃ የሚሰጧችሁ ይሆናል። መልካም ጊዜ ይሁንላችሁ።
39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ከደቂቃዎች በኋላ በዚህ በአዲስ አበባ መካሄድ ይጀምራል። ዘንድሮ እንግዲህ የአህጉሪቱ መሪዎች ጉባኤያቸውን ሲያካሂዱ በዋናነት ዘላቂ የውሃ አቅርቦትና ደህንነቱ የተጠበቀ የንጽህና አጠባበቅ ስርዓትን ማጠናከር ለአጀንዳ 2063 ግቦች ስኬት በሚል መሪ ሀሳብ ነው የሚካሄደው። በየዓመቱ የአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤውን ሲያካሂድ በአህጉሪቱ ውስጥ ችግሮች ናቸው ብሎ የለያቸውን ጉዳዮች በዋናነት የመወያያ አጀንዳ በማድረግ ነው የሚያቀርበው። በዋናነት እንግዲህ ቀደም ሲል እንደጠቀስኩት ከውሃና ከንጽህና ጋር የተያያዙ ጉዳዮች ዋና አጀንዳ ይሁኑ እንጂ ሌሎችም ከሰላምና ጸጥታ ጋር የተያያዙ እንዲሁም ደግሞ አዳዲስ ጉዳዮችም ይነሱበታል ተብሎ ይጠበቃል። አቅጣጫዎች ይቀመጣሉ፣ ውሳኔዎችም እንዲሁ ይተላለፉበታል። ይህንኑ ጉዳይና ሌሎች ከህብረቱ ጋር ተያይዞ መነሳት ያለባቸውን መረጃዎች ደግሞ እያጋራናችሁ ከኢቢሲ ጊዜያዊ ስቱዲዮ ቆይታ እናደርጋለን። መታሰቢያ ደረጀ፣ ሮዛ መኮንን እንዲሁም ደግሞ ሰለሞን አበጋዝ አለን። ከዚህ በተጨማሪ ደግሞ ሌሎች ባልደረቦቻችንም በቀጥታ መስመር ላይ ስለሚገኙ ተጨማሪ ሀሳቦችን ከነሱ ጋር እየተጋራን ቆይታ እናደርጋለን። እንዴት ናችሁ?
ሰላም ቆይተናል።
ይህ ቦታ በየዓመቱ እንግዲህ ያገናኘናል። ዘንድሮም 39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ከደቂቃዎች በኋላ መካሄዱን ይጀምራልና ዘንድሮ በዋናነት የውሃ አቅርቦትን እንዲሁም ደግሞ የንጽህና ጉዳይ መነሻ በማድረግ ነው ህብረቱ በስፋት ይመክራል፣ አቅጣጫዎችንም ይጠቁማል ተብሎ የሚጠበቀው። በብዛት እንግዲህ ቀደም ሲልም እንዳልኩት ችግሮች ናቸው ተብሎ የተለያዩ ጉዳዮች ላይ በየዓመቱ ህብረቱ ይመክራልና የአፍሪካውያን ብቻ አይደለም። ከውሃ አቅርቦት ጋር ተያይዞ ያሉ ችግሮች ምናልባትም ቀጣዩ የዓለማችን ስጋት ሊሆን ይችላል የሚሉ ጥናቶችም ባለሙያዎችም የሚያነሷቸው ሀሳቦች አሉ። ይህ ጉዳይ ወደ አፍሪካ ሲመጣ ደግሞ የአፍሪካ ህዝቦች ወይም ደግሞ ዜጎች ከውሃ አቅርቦት ጋር በተያያዘ በእጅጉ እንደሚፈተኑ የሚደረጉ ጥናቶች ያመላክታሉ። ለምሳሌ የተባበሩት መንግስታት የልማት ድርጅት 2023 ላይ ያስጠናው አንድ ጥናት እንደሚያመላክተው 400 ሚሊዮን የሚሆኑ አፍሪካውያን የውሃ አቅርቦት ችግር እንዳለባቸው ያመላክታል። ያ ብቻ አይደለም። ከውሃ አቅርቦት እጥረቱ ጋር ተያይዞ የሚመጡ በሽታዎች ደግሞ በመቶ ሺዎች የሚቆጠሩ አፍሪካውያን ዜጎች በየዓመቱ ህይወታቸውን እንዲያጡ እንደሚያደርግም ይጠቁማልና ይህንን ስናነሳ እንግዲህ በጣም ሰፊ መሆኑን ችግሩን ማስተዋል እንችላለን። አፍሪካውያን በተለይ መንግስታቶች ምን አይነት ችግሮቻችሁን እንዲፈቱላችሁ ትፈልጋላችሁ ሲባሉ በብዛት ከሚያነሷቸው ችግሮች ውስጥ በአራተኛ ደረጃ ላይ የተቀመጠው ይኸው የውሃ እጥረት ነውና የአፍሪካ ህብረት ዛሬ ጉባኤውን ሲጀምር በዚህ ላይ እንግዲህ ሀሳቦችን በስፋት ያነሳል ተብሎ ይጠበቃል።
አው እውነት ነው። እንግዲህ የአፍሪካ ህብረት በየዓመቱ በተለያዩ ርዕሰ ጉዳዮች ላይ ቀደም ሲል መታሰቢያም እንዳልሽው የሚመክርበት ጉዳይ ነው። አህጉሪቱ ምን ችግሮች ይፈትኗታል፣ ምን ተግዳሮቶች አሉባት ብሎ ብዙ ጉዳዮች ላይ ከተመካከረ በኋላ ነው ይህንን ውሳኔዎችን በየዓመቱ የሚወስነው። እንደምናስታውሰው አምና ትምህርት ጉዳይ ላይ ነበረ ትኩረቱን ያደረገው። የትምህርት ተደራሽነት ላይ ያተኮሩ ጉዳዮችን በህብረቱ ዋና ጉዳይ አድርጎ መነጋገሪያ አድርጎት ቆይቷል። አሁን ላይ ደግሞ የንጹህ የመጠጥ ውሃ እና የንጽህና ጉዳይ በተለይ ዘላቂ የሆነ መፍትሄ ያስፈልገዋል ሲል ነው ያነሳው። ቀደም ሲል እንደተባለው የንጹህ የመጠጥ ውሃ አቅርቦትና ንጽህና ጋር የተያያዙ የአፍሪካ ሀገራት መለያቸው እስከመሆን ድረስ የደረሱ ችግሮች ያሉባቸው ናቸው። በነገራችን ላይ አንድም ተፈጥሮን በአግባቡ ባለመጠበቅና ባለመንከባከብ የሚመጡ በርካታ ችግሮች አሉ። ከተፈጥሮ ጋርና የከባቢ አየር ለውጥ በእጅጉ እያጠቃት ያለችው ዓለም ላይ ነው የምንገኘው። ከዛ ላይ ደግሞ የኢኮኖሚ አነስተኛ የኢኮኖሚ መጠን መያዝ እና ኢንዱስትሪዎቻችን በዛ ልክ የአፍሪካ ኢንዱስትሪዎች ለከባቢ አየር ነገር ትኩረት አለመስጠታቸው ወይም ደግሞ የሚሰሩ ኢንዱስትሪዎች መሰረት ያደረጉት የአካባቢ ጥበቃንም አብረው እያለሙ አብረው እየሰሩ እና ሌሎች ኢንዱስትሪዎች እንዲያርጉ በማበረታታት ላይ ያሉ ክፍተቶች አሉ። ኢትዮጵያ ሁሉ ጊዜ እንደምትለው ከአረንጓዴ ልማት ላይ ትኩረት ያደረጉ ኢንዱስትሪዎች መኖር መቻል አለባቸው ብላ መኪናዎቻችን ላይ የወሰዱት እርምጃዎች እንደምናውቀው የሚታወቁ ናቸው። አረንጓዴ አሻራ መርሃ ግብራችን በስፋት የሚታወቅ ነው። ኋላ ላይ በጥልቀት ልናነሳው እንችላለን። ግን እነዚህ አይነት ተግባራትና ኢንዱስትሪዎቻችንን ከከባቢ አየር ጋር የጠበቁ ሆነው እንዲገናኙ የማድረግ ነገውን የአካባቢ ጥበቃ ላይ ትኩረት ያደረጉ ስራዎች መስራት ውሃ ላይ የሚመጡ ችግሮችን በስፋት ሊቀርፍ የሚችል ነው። ስለዚህ አሁን አፍሪካ እየተፈተነች ያለችው አንድ ኢንዱስትሪዎቿ ማናሳ ናቸው። እነዛም ኢንዱስትሪዎች ከባቢ አየርን የጠበቁ አይደሉ። ከዛው ጎን ለጎን ደግሞ ከንጽህና ጋር በተገናኘ ውሃ ለንጽህና ትልቁን አቅም እንደመስጠቱ ይህንን መቸገሯ አፍሪካ ከጤናው ስርዓትም ጋር ባንድም ሆነ በሌላ መልኩ እንዲገናኝ አድርጓታል ብለን ማንሳት እንችላለን። ኮሌራ ቢመጣ አፍሪካ ውስጥ ነው። አብዛኛው መነሻዎች ተላላፊ የሚባሉ ከንጽህና ጉድለት የሚመጡ ችግሮች ይችን አህጉር በእጅጉ እየፈተኗት ስለመሆኑ ማሳያዎች አሉ። ስለዚህ እነዚህ ችግሮች እውነትም ሊፈቱ እውነትም ትኩረት ሊደረግባቸው እንደሚገባ ማሳያዎች ናቸው። የአፍሪካ ሀገራትን የከተሜነት ስርዓትን ብንመለከት ከነዚህ ችግሮች ብዙ ያመለጡ አይደሉም። የደቀቁ የከተሜነት ስርዓቱ በአግባቡ ጤናን የጠበቀ ጤናን የሚያበረታታ አይነት አለመሆኑ ኢትዮጵያ በኮሪደር ልማቶች እንዴት እየሰራች እንዳለች እናውቃለን። ጤናን ለሚጠብቅ ለተሻጋሪ ትውልድ የሚሆኑ ንጽህናን የጠበቁ ጽዱ ኢትዮጵያን ማንሳት እንችላለን። ኢኒሼቲቮች ትልልቅ ትኩረት ያደረጉ ናቸው። ስለዚህ በዚህ ህብረት ስብሰባ ዋና ሀሳብነት አፍሪካውያን ከኢትዮጵያም ትልቅ ትምህርት ትልቅ አሪያ ሊወስዱ የሚችሉበትም ነው። አሁን ካነሳ ነው የመወያ ሀሳብ ብዬ ነው እንደዛ ነው የምንረዳው። ሰለሞን
የከተሞች መስፋፋት በራሱ የውሃ አቅርቦት ላይ ሀገራት በጣም ትኩረት ሊያደርጉ እንደሚገባ ያሳያል። ምክንያቱም አሁን ጥናቶችም እንደሚያመለክቱት በ2030 በርካታ የአፍሪካ ዜጎች ኑሯቸውን ወደ ከተማ ሊያደርጉ ይችላሉ የሚል ነገር አለና ከተሞች በተስፋፉ ቁጥር ደግሞ ለዜጎች ተደራሽ መሆን የሚችል የውሃ አቅርቦትን መኖር አለበት። ስለዚህ የህብረቱ የዛሬ ትኩረትም ይህንን ታሳቢ ያደርጋል ተብሎ ይጠበቃል።
እንግዲህ የሁለታችሁም ሮዚም የሚያነሳቸው የውሃና የጤና የንጽህና ጉዳይ አብረው ተያይዘው የሚሄዱ ስለሆኑ ነው። የ2026 የአፍሪካ ህብረት የአጀንዳ አንዱ ቲም ወይም መሪ ቃል ተደርጎ የተወሰደው የከተሜነት መስፋፋት፣ ከዚያም ባለፈ ደግሞ ቅድም ሮዛ ስትጠቅሶ የነበረው በተለይ የአካባቢ ላይ የአካባቢን የመጠበቅ ተፈጥሮን የማልማት ስራዎች ላይ ዝቅተኛ ደረጃ ላይ አፍሪካ መገኘቷ በዚያ ልክ ዋጋ እያስከፈለ መጥቷል። ቅድም የጠቀሽ ቁጥር አለ። ከዚህ ከንጽህና ጋር ደግሞ ከ340 ሚሊዮን አካባቢ የሚሆኑ አፍሪካውያን ከንጽህና አጠባበቅ ጋር ጥሩ የሆነ አገልግሎት እንደማያገኙ ችግሮች እንዳሉባቸው መረጃዎች ያሳያሉና ስለዚህ የውሃ አቅርቦት ችግሮች ሲኖሩ በአንድ በኩል የጤናና የንጽህና ጉድለቶች ይከሰታሉ። ራሱ ደግሞ ለማሸነፍ 2063 የዘላቂ ልማት የአጀንዳ 2063 ተግባራዊ በማድረግ ረገድ እንግዲህ በኢኮኖሚ የዳበረች ፖለቲካ ውህደት የተፈጠረባት ንጽህና የተጠበቀበት አፍሪካን እውን ለማድረግ በዋነኝነት እቅድ ተይዟልና እሱን ለማረጋገጥ ነው እንግዲህ ሞቶውም ወይም መሪ ቃሉን ስናስበው እዚያው ጋር በጨረሻ ላይ የሚያስቀምጠው ነው የ2063 አጀንዳን ግብ ለማሳካት አጠቃላይ የውሃ አቅርቦት እንዲሁም ደግሞ ደህንነቱ የተጠበቀ ንጽህናን ማረጋገጥ ያስፈልጋል የሚል ሀሳብ የተነሳውና በዚያ ረገድ ግን ኢትዮጵያ ጅምር ስራዎች አሉ፣ ሌሎች በሀገራቶች ጅምር ስራዎች አሉ። እሱም ካጠናከርን የ2063 አጀንዳን ግቦችን ለመምታት የራሱ ድርሻ ይወስዳል ተብሎ እንደሚጠበቀው 39ኛው የመሪዎች ጉባኤም በዋነኝነት ይህንን መሪ ሀሳብ ይዞት ለአንድ ዓመት የሚቆይበት ነው የሚሆነው።
አጀንዳ 2063ን ስናነሳ እንግዲህ በዋናነት ለዜጎቿ ምቹ የሆነች አህጉርን መፍጠርን ታሳቢ ያደረገ ነው። በኢኮኖሚውም በፖለቲካውም ጠንክራ መቆም የምትችል አህጉር ዜጎቿ በትምህርት ሊሆን ይችላል፣ በጤናው ዘርፍ ሊሆን ይችላል፣ አስፈላጊ የሚባሉ አገልግሎቶችን ማግኘት የሚችሉባትን ጠንካራ የሆነች አህጉርን መፍጠርን ታሳቢ ያደረገ እቅድ ነውና ይህ ከንጽህና ከውሃ ጋር ተያይዞ ያሉ ችግሮች ደግሞ አሁንም አህጉሪቷን እየፈተኑ መሆናቸው አጀንዳ 2063 ላይ ምን አይነት ለውጦችን ሊመጡ ይችላሉ የሚለውን ነገር እንድናስብ ያደርገናል። ስለዚህም ለአጀንዳው ስኬት ዘንድሮ ይሄ ጉዳይ መነሳቱ ትልቅ ነገር ነው ማለት እንችላለን። አንድ ዓመት ሙሉ እንግዲህ በቀጣይ ትኩረት ሲደረግባቸው የሚሰሩ ስራዎች ይኖራሉ። የሀገራት መንግስታትን ጭምር በጋራ የሚሰሩባቸው ልክ ቀደም ሲል እናንተም ስትጠቅሱ እንደነበረው ሀገራት የራሳቸው የሆነ ተሞክሮ አላቸው በዚህ ረገድና ኢትዮጵያ ማሳያ ሊሆኑ የሚችሉ ሰፊ ስራዎችን እየሰራች እንደሆነ ይታወቃል። ምናልባትም ወደ ኋላ ላይ በስፋት ይህንን ጉዳይ የምናየው ነው የሚሆነው። የኢትዮጵያን አስተዋጽኦ እነ አፍሪካ እንግዲህ ማንሳት ከጀመርን መለስ ብለን ወደ 1963 ልንሻገር ነው። የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት በወቅቱ ሲቋቋም ኢትዮጵያ አፍሪካውያን አንድነታቸውን እንዲያጠናክሩ መነሻ ሀሳብን በማቅረብ የምትታወቅ ሀገር ናት። ያኔ የጀመረ ጉዞ ነው ዛሬ ላይ እንግዲህ በብዙ መስኮች ተጠናክሮ መቀጠል የቻለውና ታሪክን ወደ ኋላ መለስ ብለን ስንመለከት ቅኝ ግዛት አፍሪካውያንን በፈተነበት በዛ ዘመን 63 ዓመታትን ወደ ኋላ ሄደን ማለት ነው 1963 ላይ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት እንዲመሰረት ምክንያት የሆነችው ኢትዮጵያ በወቅቱ በነጻነት ውስጥ የነበረች የነጻነት ማሳያ የሆነች ሀገር ነበረችና ያ ደግሞ ተሰሚነቷም ትልቅ እንዲሆን እድልን ፈጥሮላታል ማለት እንችላለን። እንደምናስታውሰው 1961 ላይ በርካታ የአፍሪካ ሀገራት ከቅኝ ግዛት ነጻ ከወጡ በኋላ 1963 ላይ ያ አስከፊ ጠባሳ እንዲሻር የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት መመስረት ነበረበት። አፍሪካውያን የግዛት ሉዓላዊነታቸውን የሚያረጋግጡበት፣ ህብረታቸውን የሚያጠናክሩበት፣ በራሳቸው መወሰን የሚችሉበትን መንገድ መፈለግ ነበረባቸውና ከተለያዩ የአፍሪካ ሀገራት መሪዎች ጋር በመሆን በወቅቱ ስልጣን ላይ የነበሩት ቀዳማዊ አፄ ኃይለ ሥላሴ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት እውን እንዲሆን ትልቁን አበርክቶ መጫወታቸው ይታወቃል። ከዛ ባለፈ ጽንፍ የወጡ ሀሳቦች ወደ አንድ መስመር እንዲመጡ፣ ሀሳቦች እንዲቀላቀሉ፣ በሰላም እንዲቋጩም የወቅቱ የአፍሪካ አንድነት ድርጅት የመጀመሪያ ጉባኤ አዲስ አበባ ላይ በ32 ሀገራት ሲካሄድ ያኔ የነበረው አስተዋጽኦ ትልቅ ነበር ማለት እንችላለን። ለማንኛውም ይህንን ሀሳብ እንመለስበታለን። ወደ ዋናው ስቱዲዮ ደግሞ እንመልሳችሁና አንተነህና መቅደላዊት በዚያ ይገኛሉ። ከነሱ ጋር የተወሰነ ጊዜ ቆይታችሁ ከኛ ጋር ዳግም እንገናኛለን።
እናመሰግናለን መታሰቢያ ደረጀ፣ ሮዛ መኮንንና ሰለሞን አበጋዝ ከአፍሪካ ህብረት ጉባኤ አዳራሽ ጊዜያዊ ስቱዲያችን እጅግ እናመሰግናለን። እንመለሳለን። በኋላም ተገናኝተን ሌሎች ሀሳቦችን እንለዋወጣለን። የቀደመውን ሀሳብ ትንሽ እንመለስበትና ወደ ብሩክም በኋላ ላይ እንሄዳለን። ሌላው የዚህ ዛሬ የውሃ አቅርቦት ጋር የውሃ ጉዳይ ስናነሳ ድንበር ተሻጋሪ የውሃ ሀብት ትብብርን ቅድም መነሻ አድርገን ነበረ ወደ ጊዜያዊ ስቱዲዮ ነው። አብዛኞቹ የአፍሪካ ትልቅ ወንዞች ሀይቆች ከአንድ በላይ ሀገራትን የሚያቋርጡ ናቸው። ስለዚህ የጋራ ትብብርን ይፈልጋሉ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ትብብርን የሚያጠናክር ግጭትን የሚያስወግድና በጋራ መልማትን ትኩረት ለማድረግ በጣም አመቺ ሁኔታ ራሷ ተፈጥሮ ሰጥታለች ብለን ማንሳት እንችላለን። ለምሳሌ እንደ አባይ ናይልም እንድመለከት ኮንጎና ዛምቢያ ባሉ ተፋሰሶች ላይ ጋር አስተዳደር ስርዓቶች እነዚህ ሪቨር ቤዝን ኦርጋናይዜሽን የሚሉትን በማጠናከር ፍትሃዊ አጠቃቀምን ማስፈር ላይ ትኩረት አድርጓል። በነገርሽ ላይ በዚህ ጉባኤ 3 ተሞክሮዎችም በስፋት ይነሳሉ። አንደኛው ተሞክሮ የኢትዮጵያ ነው። ታላቁ ህዳሴ ግድብን በራስ አቅም ጀምሮ በራስ አቅም መጨረስን ከፋይናንስም ከግንባታውም ከምኑም ይሄ ለኢትዮጵያ ብቻ አይደለም ለአፍሪካዊ ኩራት ነው። የምርቃው ጊዜ መላው አፍሪካውያን የአፍሪካ ሚዲያዎችም ጭምር የውጭ ሚዲያዎችም ትልቅ ትኩረትና ሽፋን የሰጡት ነው። አንደኛው ውሃ ሀብትን በጋራ ተጠቃሚነት ላይ በተለይ ለታችኞቹ ተፋሰስ ሀገራት በፍትሃዊነት ማከፋፈል የሚለውን በተግባር መሬቷ ወርዳ ያሳየችው ኢትዮጵያ ነች በታላቁ ህዳሴ ግድብ ላይ። ሌላኛው ጉዳይ የሩዋንዳ ተሞክሮ ነው። የከተማ ንጽህና አሁን ወደኛም ወደ አዲስ አበባችን መጥቷል። ያው ቀደም ሲል ባልደረቦቻችን የተለያዩ አካባቢዎች ላይ በካሜራቸው እያስቃኙ ነበር እንዴት ውብ እንደሆነ። ልክ ለእንዲህ አይነት ጊዜ እንዲያምሮ ሲደርስ ደግሞ ብዙዎቻችን የሚያስደስት ነው ማለት እንችላለን። ሌላኛው የሴኔጋል ተሞክሮ ነው። የውሃ አቅርቦት ዲጂታላይዜሽን ቅድም ዲጂታል 2030 ኢትዮጵያ እየተገበረች እንደሆነ አንስተን ነበር። የውሃ ጉዳይም ዲጂታላይዝ አድርጎ መፈጸም እንደሚቻል ሴኔጋል ተሞክሮ አለት። እነዚህ 3 ሀገራት ትልቅ ተሞክሮ ከዚሁ ከ39ኛው አፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ጋር መሪ ሀሳብ ጋር ተያይዞ የሚነሳ ጉዳይ ነው። ወደ ብሩክም መምራት ትችላለሽ።
አዎ ቀደም ሲል አንተም እንዳልከው ነው እንግዲህ ኢትዮጵያ በዚህ በ39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ ላይ ከህዳሴ ግድብ ከምታካፍለው ተሞክሮ በተጨማሪ በታዳሽ ኃይል በግብርና በኮሪደር ልማት ቅድም እንዳልከው የሰራቻቸውን አመርቂ ውጤቶች ያስመዘገበችባቸውን የገጠርም የኮሪደር ልማቱንም ውጤት ያስመዘገበችባቸውን ዘርፎች ልምዷን የምታጋራ ነው የሚሆነው። ቀደም ሲል እንግዲህ እንዳለው የውሃ አቅርቦትና አስተማማኝ ንጽህና አጠባበቅ ስርዓትን ማረጋገጥ የሚል መሪ ሀሳብን ይዞ ነው የ39ኛው የአፍሪካ ህብረት የመሪዎች ጉባኤ የሚካሄደው። እንግዲህ ወደ አፍሪካ ህብረት የመሰብሰቢያ አዳራሽ እንግዶች እየገቡ ነው እየተመለከትን እንዳለ ነው። ከጥቂት ደቂቃዎች በኋላ ደግሞ የጉባኤውን መጀመር ወደዛው በቀጥታ ስርጭት በመግባት ወደ እናንተ የምናደርስ ነው የሚሆነው። አጠር ያለ መረጃ ለመቀበል ሪፖርተራችን ብሩክ ተስፋይን ልናገኘው ነው። ብሩክ እንደምን ቆየ? አጠር አድርገህ እንግዶች እየገቡ ስለሆነ ከመሪ ቃሉ ጋር የተያያዙ ሀሳቦችን ባጭሩ ንገረን።
አመሰግናለሁ። እንግዲህ አፍሪካ ከፍተኛ የሆነ የተፈጥሮ ሀብት ያላት ሀገር ነች። ከዚህ ውስጥ እንግዲህ በዓለማችን በጣም በሚገርም ሁኔታ ተፈጥሮ የቸራት አህጉር እንደመሆኗ መጠን ከፍተኛ የሆኑ ወንዞች እና የውሃ ሀብቶች ቢኖሯትም እነዚህን የውሃ ሀብቶቿን አውጥታ በመጠቀም ረገድ ደግሞ ለችግር
Merci, Vos Excellences.
Thank you, Your Excellencies. You may sit down. Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and Chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, His Excellencies, Heads of State and Governments of Member States of the African Union, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of Ministers of Italy, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellency Mohammed Mustafa, Prime Minister of the State of Palestine, Excellencies, former heads of states here present, our honorable First Ladies present here in this hall, Excellency Selma Malika Hadidi, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Ministers, Excellencies, Commissioners, and the entire leadership of the African Union, Excellencies, Honorable Ambassadors and permanent representatives of Member States of the African Union and international partners. His Excellency Fatala, the Director General of the African Union Commission, heads of organs and specialized agencies of the African Union, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of regional economic communities, Excellencies, heads of specialized institutions of the United Nations and international organizations here present, Excellencies, heads of African financial institutions, distinguished guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Good morning to you all. It is an immense pleasure for me to welcome you here to the opening ceremony of the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State, taking place here today at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. This session, which is a very important one, is the first of its kind since the election of the new leadership of the African Union Commission last year, February 2025. This offers an opportunity for constructive discussions on the progress made so far. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the program of our opening ceremony will be as follows. First and foremost, we are going to listen to the statements that will be made respectively by His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, His Excellency Mohammed Mustafa, His Excellency Her Excellency Giorgia Meloni, and His Excellency João Manuel Goncalves. These statements will be followed by the announcement of the Bureau of the Assembly of the African Union for the year 2026. And in this vein, His Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and the outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, will make his handing over statement as the outgoing Chair of the African Union. And after that, His Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi, the incoming AU Chairperson, will also make his own acceptance statement. And these statements, Your Excellencies, will be followed by the presentation and the launch of the African Union Theme of the Year 2026. That is, guarantee the sustainable availability of water and health systems to meet the objectives of Agenda 2063. That said, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor and pleasure to invite His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the AU Commission, to make his opening statement.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and Chair of the African Union, Excellency Dr. Abiy Mohamed, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of Italy, and Honorable Mustafa, Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, UN Secretary General, representatives of Pan-African institutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to wish you a very happy New Year 2026. I also want to wish you all a warm welcome to the African Union, especially the newly elected heads of state. Permit me also to congratulate and thank President Lourenço of Angola for his chairship of the Union in 2025, which has given a new fillip to our continental agenda. The 39th summit of the African Union, ladies and gentlemen, is based on the theme water and sanitation, which is key to our economies and which is a collective good which should be a source of peace and cooperation among nations. Our summit is taking place against the backdrop of a crisis in the world and on the continent and in the world, and our policy of silencing the gun is far from becoming a reality, and the open or latent conflicts are chronic. Unconstitutional change of government is also reminds us of the obscure post-independence period. The change in the international order significantly impacts the affairs of the continent without forgetting the interference in our affairs by externalities. Multilateralism is sorely tested, and we are witnessing the emergence of unilateralism and protectionism. In the face of these, Africa should scale up its cooperation through the enhancing of its integration and cooperation programs. Pan-African institutions should intensify their efforts and determination. ASCFTA, AUDA, NEPAD, Africa CDC, and other mechanisms of African Union should work together. We request African financial institutions, AFC, the African Development Bank, and Afrexim Bank to work together. Ladies and gentlemen, regional economic communities also have to scale up their operations. By 2050, Africa should be able to rival with the major economies. Agenda 2063 should guide us towards the Africa that we want, a strong, autonomous, and prosperous Africa. These are not pious wishes, but an imperative for survival. And the major countries in the world are preparing for the polarization of this world. Africa is in the global south, but Africa has its own hallmark and its own identity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the reform of the institution should continue. The mobilization of domestic resources to finance the programs of the continent is not an option. It's urgent in the face of externalities. Our youth on the continent are impatient, and our women want more equality. Our civil society is positioning itself. So it's crucial to expedite the industrialization of the continent and the transformation of agriculture. And that will only be possible if we develop the energy potential of Africa and also create the necessary infrastructure. These are the prerequisites for the economic development of the continent expected. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the projects are complex and many. And we also know the challenges. You are confronted with these challenges on a daily basis in your respective countries. The African Union Commission, which I heard, will spare no efforts to advance this agenda. This is a long-term work, and we need to ensure that our action is sustainable. The 5-year 2022-2028 plan has been launched. The Agenda 2023 decade should be characterized by a high level of performance and execution. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's also important to focus on the suffering of our people, victims of war, injustice, displacement, and we cannot avoid their daily challenges. From the Sudan to the Sahel, to the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, and elsewhere, our people continue to bear the brunt of instability. In the Middle East, Palestine, so the suffering of Palestinians is also a cause on us to act. The suffering of people should cease. International law and international humanitarian law are the basis of the international community. Preserving and promoting them will be the only pathway to ensuring peace in the world. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you every success in your deliberation. Thank you.
Che le vostre deliberazioni abbiano successo nei prossimi giorni. Grazie.
Thank you, Excellency, and we warmly welcome the Prime Minister of the State of Palestine, who has joined us on the podium. We also acknowledge His Excellency Madam Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, and who is also one of the Africans most known in this in the Commission. So welcome. So it's an immense privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, to deliver his statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency,
Eccellenza João Lourenço,
Chairperson of the African Union,
Presidente uscente dell'Unione Africana, Eccellenza
Giorgia Meloni, Republic of Italy,
Presidente del Consiglio
Your
della Repubblica
Excellencies,
Italiana,
Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Madam Amina, Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, former heads of state and government present, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to Ethiopia, a land where human origins are traced, where time is measured differently, where coffee was first shared with the world, a place where deep history, proven resilience, and bold ambition for Africa's future converge. Today, as Africa gathers at a defining moment, we recognize that our continent's most strategic asset is not only what we extract, but what we design, build, and govern. Progress is achieved when vision is translated into systems and ideas into lasting institutions. As we build on the African Water Vision 2025, we reflect on a simple truth. Water is more than a resource. It is a foundation of development, innovation, and stability. It shapes our cities, our farms, our health, and our peace. Here in Ethiopia, we have learned that responsible water management is central to guiding development wisely. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam now powers homes and industry, exports electricity to neighboring countries, and shows how African ingenuity can drive shared prosperity. Across Africa, Rivers can become engines of stability when governed for shared benefit. On our land, targeted policy and innovation have enabled wheat self-sufficiency, and large-scale industrial investments are moving us from dependency to production. Excellencies, today, many African economies are among the fastest growing in the world. Projections show that Africa's growth will be on par, if not above, that of Asia. This is a rare convergence in modern economic history. In Ethiopia, we expect growth of 10.2% by the end of this year. Over the next 25 years, we aim to move from a low-income economy to a globally competitive one, anchored in productivity, industrialization, innovation, and quality jobs. Yet, growth alone is not enough. Our greatest wealth is our people. By 2035, Africa will add more young people to the global workforce than the rest of the world combined. This demographic reality must be harnessed with purpose. Numbers alone will not deliver prosperity. That's why we are investing in maternal and child health, expanding early childhood education, and scaling school feeding programs. Every child must arrive at school nourished, ready to learn, and prepare to contribute. We also strongly believe development must include all. Across Ethiopia, urban and rural areas are being transformed, designed to be green, human-centered, and resilient. Excellencies, in Addis Ababa, riverside renewal has transformed degraded waterways into clean, vibrant public spaces, reducing flood risk, restoring dignity, and strengthening community life. As Africa's urban landscape expands rapidly, we must be intentional. The African city of the future is walkable, green, youth-centered, and grounded in dignity and belonging. In rural areas, modernization is enhancing livelihoods, connecting communities to markets. This integrated approach links development with climate stewardship. One expression of this is the Green Legacy Initiative. We have planted more than 48 billion trees, restoring ecosystems and building a living legacy for future generations. Yet, the global development pathway has come at immense environmental costs borne by communities far beyond those responsible. Therefore, climate action must be anchored in justice and equity, aligning finance, technology, and partnership to enable Africa to thrive. In this spirit, we hosted the second Africa Climate Summit, and we are preparing to host COP32, ensuring Africa speaks with one voice and presents solutions to the globe. This same principle of integration guides our technological transformation. Under Digital Ethiopia 2030, we're building digital public infrastructure that places citizens at the center of service delivery. By linking FIDA, our national digital ID, with payment systems and the massive data exchange, we enable secure access to services, seamless transactions, and responsible data sharing, fostering trust and driving our economy forward. In 2020, Ethiopia established Africa's first artificial intelligence institute. Building on this foundation, we are preparing to launch an AI university anchored in the Ethiopian philosophy of Maddamer, synergy through purposeful collaboration. This institution will unite human values with machine intelligence, local context with global relevance, and scientific rigor with applied impact. It will ensure technology drives growth and position Africa as a global contributor in the age of intelligence. Ethiopia is also continuing to invest in connectivity. Through Ethiopian Airlines, we connect people, link markets, and move goods. To sustain this momentum, we are building Africa's largest airport, a next-generation gateway that will anchor our continent in global value chain. Beyond aviation, Ethio Telecom is expanding across Africa, bridging the digital divide and linking our continent's future through strategic partnerships. Yet, connectivity must be complete. For a nation like Ethiopia, with over 130 million people, sustainable growth requires diversified access. Ensuring reliable access to the sea through peaceful cooperation is fundamental to our economic future and to long-term stability and prosperity in the Horn of Africa. Excellencies, we meet at a moment of profound global transition. In this era of uncertainty, Africa's strengths will lie in a union that is confident and united. As we approach the African Union Silver Jubilee, the moment marks a transition from foundational unity to functional sovereignty. Sovereignty means owning our narrative. Through initiatives like Pulse of Africa, we amplify African voices because development is never complete without our story. Africa can contribute stability, scale, and solutions to a changing world. But we must do more than respond to crisis. We must shape agendas, turning vision into action, and leading with purpose. Every river we manage, every city we design, and every digital platform we deploy must generate resilience, opportunity, and dignity. By 2063, Africa will be defined by what we secure, what we sustain, and what we share. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment, and this is our responsibility. To conclude, I extend my appreciation to our outgoing chairperson, President João Lourenço, for his leadership and service to our union. I also warmly congratulate our new incoming chairperson and wish him success in guiding Africa forward. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Benedica l'Africa, grazie.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Now I have the singular honor of inviting His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, to deliver his statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Presidente João Lourenço da República de Angola e Chairperson da União Africana, distinguished heads of state and government, Chairperson Mahmoud Yusuf of the Commission of the African Union, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. In a world filled with division and mistrust, the African Union is a flagship for multilateralism. My gratitude runs deep. I will carry with me always the unwavering decisive support of the African group in the UN on issue after issue, initiative after initiative, in the shared struggle for justice and equality. Your solidarity has not only strengthened our efforts, it has moved me deeply, and I will never forget it. From day one of my mandate, we forged the UN partnership with the African Union rooted in respect, constant dialogue, and unwavering solidarity. Over the last decade, our cooperation has reached new heights. Joint frameworks on peace and security, sustainable development, and human rights. Collaboration during COVID-19, important new partnerships, and the landmark adoption of Security Council Resolution 2719, creating a pathway for predictable funding for AU-led peace support operations. We have been honoured to support AU priorities, from silencing the guns to the African Humanitarian Agency to the promotion of inclusive political transitions. And we have stood with Africa as you lead global demands for justice, confronting the legacy of slavery and colonialism, including your call for reparatory justice frameworks, championing the Sustainable Development Goals, driving climate ambition, and strengthening multilateralism for the 21st century through the reforms of the global financial architecture and, at long last, the UN Security Council. The absence of permanent African seats in the Security Council is indefensible. This is 2026, not 1946. Whatever decisions about Africa and the world are on the table, Africa must be at the table. Excellencies, these priorities inform the Pact for the Future, shaped by African leadership and the UN80 initiative to strengthen UN support to Africa and beyond. Looking ahead, we continue to have three major areas of focus. First, peace. In Sudan, the parties must commit to an immediate cessation of hostilities and resume talks towards a lasting ceasefire and comprehensive, inclusive, and Sudanese-owned political process. In South Sudan, the EU's high-level ad hoc committee provides an important chance to revive political dialogue and prevent renewed conflict. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, commitments must be honoured, starting with an immediate ceasefire in the respect of the territorial integrity of the RDC. In the Central African Republic, political and security gains must be consolidated. And in Libya, all actors must advance a Libyan-led process supported by the United Nations Support Mission. Across West Africa and the Sahel, coordinated efforts are essential to end cycles of violence, terrorism, and displacement. And this Somalia, sustained and predictable funding for the EU support and stabilization mission is vital. I regret the Security Council's lack of consensus for finance through assessed contributions. If the mission of the EU in Somalia did not warrant global support, what would? More broadly, we are reviewing peace operations to ensure mandates are realistic, sequenced and well-resourced, and supported by clear transition strategies. Excellences, deuxièmement, l'action économique. De financement vertigineux des objectifs de développement durable de 4 000 milliards de dollars par an. Dans le même temps, l'Afrique perd chaque année davantage en remboursement de la dette et en flux financiers illicites qu'elle ne reçoit d'aide. Parallèlement, les pays africains paient des taux d'emprunt jusqu'à 8 fois supérieurs à ceux des économies avancées. Nous devons tripler la capacité de prêt des banques multilatérales de développement, mobiliser davantage de financement privé, réduire les coûts et les risques d'emprunt et soutenir les pays en situation d'endettement, de surendettement, et réformer l'architecture financière internationale afin de garantir aux pays en développement, et notamment aux pays africains, une voix et une participation pleine et entière dans les institutions financières et les prises de décision. La communauté internationale doit aussi assumer pleinement ses responsabilités dans la lutte contre le blanchissement de l'argent, l'évasion fiscale et les flux financiers illicites. Excellencies, third, climate action. Your team underlines the urgency of resilient water and sanitation systems in a warming planet. The science is unequivocal. The planet will overshoot the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. Our common task is to make that overshoot as small, short and safe as possible. The G20 accounts for close to 80% of global emissions, and they must deliver major reductions this decade. Meanwhile, Africa, with 60% of the world's best solar potential, can become a clean energy powerhouse. Yet Africa receives only 2% of global clean energy investment. After contributing almost nothing to the crisis, Africa faces faster than average warming. Adaptation must be a priority, and that requires developed countries tripling adaptation finance and mobilizing the $1.3 trillion a year for developing countries by 2035, as agreed in Baku. Scaling up the Loss and Damage Fund and accelerating a just, orderly and equitable transition from fossil fuels to renewables. Expanding early warning systems and ensuring African countries benefit first and fully from their critical minerals through fair, sustainable value chains and manufacturing, in line with the recommendations of the UN panel on critical energy transition minerals. No more exploitation, no more plundering. The people of Africa must benefit from the resources of Africa. Excellencies, your leadership and solidarity have shaped my mission as Secretary General every step of the way. Let's keep going, strengthening our partnership for peace, sustainable development and human rights for Africa and our world. And allow me a final observation. Some have described my presence here as a farewell. It's not true. I can guarantee that until the last moment of my mandate, Africa will be the priority number one of the UN in all its activities. And that the partnership between the African Union and the UN will be our deepest strategic partnership. And after the 31st of December, I can guarantee that wherever I will be, whatever I will be doing, in the center of my concerns and of my active solidarity, there will be Africa always. Africa sempre.
Merci beaucoup, Votre Excellence.
I thank you very much, Excellency. Honor to invite His Excellency Mohammed Mustafa, Prime Minister of the State of Palestine, in order to address this august assembly. Excellency, you have the floor. Your Excellency João Lourenço, Chairman of the African Union, President of the Republic of Angola, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the Commission of the African Union, Your Excellency Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of Italy, Your Excellency Secretary General Mr. Guterres of the UN, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. I'm very pleased to stand before you here on behalf of your brother, His Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, conveying to you his greetings and his wishes of success for the 39th Assembly of the African Union until it achieves its goals and also until it achieves for Africa and its struggling peoples prosperity, stability, and sustainable development. Now, I will read to you the message or the statement of President Mahmoud Abbas to this Assembly. We would like, first of all, to express our congratulations to the President of Burundi, Mr. Everest Shimi, for being elected at the helm of this Assembly in 2026, and we extend our thanks and gratitude to the President of the Republic of Angola, João Lourenço, for chairing the previous session of the Union. I would like also to seize this opportunity in order to reaffirm our pride for the deep ties and also the solidarity of Africa with Palestine, and also the common values on which the relationship between Africa and Palestine has been established since the last century, at the top of which the rejection of all forms of colonization and the right of peoples for freedom and self-determination and also dependency, and also the common objectives of development, the sharing of expertise and benefits in order to achieve prosperity and economic integration and the reinforcement of ties and mutual benefits among our peoples. And in this respect, we would like to commend the efforts of the African Union and the member states in order to achieve sustainable development and also high growth rates, and we would like to support these efforts which are aimed at exploiting resources and the wealth of the continent in the service of the African peoples. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, heads of state and government and heads of delegations, our Palestinian people is still suffering from the occupation, from the Israeli occupation. And also, the crimes of Israel have been increasing day after day, and we need more solidarity and efforts by the international community in order to achieve its freedom and self-determination and build up its state on the borders of 1967 and based also on international resolutions. This summit is taking place at a very important juncture for the Palestinian people who is still suffering. And the war in Gaza has been unprecedented, and you have been watching and following this war through your televisions, which has cost more than 70,000 deaths. And the 85% of our infrastructure in Gaza has been demolished in violation of international law. The state of Palestine has agreed on the ceasefire a ceasefire, and also the American decision on Gaza, and which has set for which would lead to self-determination for the Palestinians after a period of transition of 2 years. Our agreement is based on our conviction that war must be ended and that the suffering of our peoples must be ended, particularly that the resolution of the United Nations has stipulated that this transition period will last 2 years. Our agreement is based also on our conviction for the need to end the war against our people and ease their suffering, especially that the resolution of the United Nations Security Council has stipulated the necessity of access of humanitarian assistance and the start of reconstruction in Gaza. But despite this ceasefire, thanks to the role played by the mediators, particularly the United States, Turkey, and Qatar. Despite all this, Israel is still violating this ceasefire since it has killed, since the time of the ceasefire up to now, more than 500 Palestinians since the proclamation of the ceasefire, which threatens the ceasefire and undermines the second phase fully. And in this context, we would like to reaffirm the need to lift all the obstacles that are imposed by Israel against the arrangements that are related to the second phase, including the work of the Board of Gaza in order to ensure the continuation of the services and humanitarian assistance. Our vision for the future of Gaza is quite clear. Gaza is an integrated part of Palestine, and our people is one, and our national project is one as part of our overall vision, which is based on one state, one political system, one government, one law, and one legislation based on the UN Security Council relevant resolutions. Ladies and gentlemen, what is taking place in the West Bank reflects the suffering which the people in Gaza are faced with, since there is an enlargement of the settlements and our people are suffering from the violence exerted by the settlers and the confiscation of their lands and goods through as a violation against international law. And last month alone, the terrorist settlers have committed more than 72 aggressions against our people in the West Bank, and the Israeli government has undertaken a new legislation which reinforces settlement and which allows the confiscation of lands in violation of international law. All this in order to impose the Israeli sovereignty on Palestine and prevent the setting up of the Palestinian state. These measures, which have been proclaimed recently, need a vigorous response in order to save the solution based on two states. And the Israeli government is trying to undermine the action of the Palestinian government through trying to keep the taxes, and this in violation of the Protocol of Oslo, which was agreed upon by the two sides, since those funds that have been restrained by Israel are estimated at more than $4 billion, and our government has lost more than 70% of its outcome. So which government could really carry on its action while losing more than a third of its financial resources. And we must also talk about the city of Jerusalem because of its religious and historical and legal importance and all the policies that it is faced with aimed at imposing at undermining the presence of the Palestinians in Jerusalem. And these policies include the violation of the sanctity of the Holy Mosque. This in addition to policies of demolition of homes and also the prevention of Christians and Muslims from access to holy shrines in order to undertake their prayers in Jerusalem, in Al-Quds. This is a violation of international law and legitimacy. And these measures undermine any horizon in order to achieve sustainable and lasting peace in the region. And we must here underscore that East Jerusalem is part and parcel of the state of Palestine, and that any attempts to impose a new reality will not change the legal status of this holy city. Mr. Chairman, heads of delegations, last year was very important as concerns the international momentum in support of our people, and particularly the International Alliance for the two-state solution and the initiative of Saudi Arabia and our friends in France in organizing a conference on the two-state solution, this in compliance with UN resolution. And this has led to the New York Agreement, which was agreed by the General Assembly on the 12th of September 2025 with the support of your countries in the service, in the benefit of this proclamation. And the international recognition was very important, since the number of countries which have recognized the state of Palestine, 160 states. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to reiterate my thanks and gratitude positions of the African Union and its member states in supporting and backing the Palestinian questions in all the regional and international fora. And we would like also to reiterate our support to your actions and struggle and priorities in Africa, and the need to enable Africa to play its leading role in a multilateral world while protecting its cultural identity and sovereignty. And we would like to greet on this occasion the great efforts which are being made by the UN and its Secretary General and its agencies in providing important assistance and services to our people. And we would like to commend also the efforts, whether formal or informal, which have supported the Palestinian question and which have considered the Palestinian issue as a central one. We would like to support our full support to the aspirations of our brothers in Africa for stability, prosperity and development, and wish full success to your work and the future of Africa and its free peoples, and wish them more prosperity. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you for your kind attention.
Merci, Votre Excellence.
I thank you, Excellency. I have the honor now to invite His Excellency Giorgia Meloni, President of the Council of the Republic of Italy, to make her statement. Excellency, you have the floor.
Presidents, Prime Ministers, authorities, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me to be here with you today. And I would like to express my heartfelt thanks once again to President Yusuf and President Lorenzo, as well as to all of you for this historic opportunity offered to Italy. The invitation to participate in the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, the forum in which this organization discusses its fundamental political choices and determines the strategic direction of the continent, is a recognition that can only make Italy proud and that will Italy accept with respect and a sense of responsibility. It is a demonstration of trust that we will not disappoint. I have the honor to lead a nation that has in its DNA characteristics that historically make it a respected and valued partner. Propensity for dialogue, capacity for discussion, respect for others before anything else. A nation that has built part of its identity and its foreign policy on the profound meaning of a world that in times as unstable and unpredictable as ours can be the key to charting the course. And that word is cooperation. The word cooperation comes from the Latin cooperare, to work with. True cooperation, that is, never sees an active and a passive subject, but exists only in a relation between equals, a relation in which the specificities of each one are indispensable for achieving a common goal. If you look down on someone, you cannot cooperate with them. If you want to plunder their resources, you are not cooperating with them. Even if you just want to give charity, you cannot call it cooperation, for cooperation is another thing. And what Italy wants to do is to cooperate. Yesterday, together with many of you, we attended the second Italy-Africa Summit, the first ever to be held on this continent. I would like to thank the Ethiopian Prime Minister, my friend Abiy Ahmed, and the leaders of the African Union for their hospitality and cooperation in organizing the event. In that context, we discussed what we can do to further strengthen and consolidate one of the most concrete outcomes of this idea of cooperation, which is the Mattei Plan for Africa. The investment plan that Italy has implemented in various nations of the continent in areas ranging from infrastructure to agriculture, from health to training. This is a strategy that we have built together because we do not conceive of the Mattei Plan as an Italian plan for Africa, but as Italy's contribution to your agenda, with a particular focus on this year on water-related projects. It is an open platform for putting our know-how, our technologies, our investments at the service of the objectives that the African Union has set out in Agenda 2063, starting with the creation of a continental free trade area that is integrated and prosperous. This is an ambitious goal which we will support and which will require efficient, secure, and fast economic interconnections in order to be achieved. Like the Lobito Corridor, the railway and infrastructure backbone that will connect African markets to global ones and bring people, ideas, and economies closer together. A strategic project that sees Italy at the forefront, together with the United States and the European Union. In short, the Mattei Plan is a comprehensive strategy that generates concrete benefits for our peoples and aims to continually expand its scope, relying on the irreplaceable contribution of major United Nations agencies, and I want to thank the Secretary General Antonio Guterres, but also the World Bank, the African Development Bank, and many other partners who increasingly share our vision. 2 years ago in Rome, we set out the course together. And in recent years, we have followed it with consistency and determination, adding a new piece to the mosaic each time and bringing new nations on board every year. We have done so on many fronts, starting with what I consider to be crucial for building a true free Africa capable of determining its own destiny, addressing the issue of debt. We wanted to chart a course on this issue as well. Therefore, Italy has decided to launch a vast program to convert the debt of African nations, which includes, among its main points, the complete transformation of the debt of the most fragile and vulnerable countries into investments, and the strengthening of the contribution to the World Bank's AIDA funds. Similarly, we've introduced specific debt suspension clauses into our bilateral loans, allowing African nations affected by extreme weather events to free up fiscal space to help their population and rebuild essential infrastructures. These are choices based on justice and responsibility, which are crucial for freeing up resources that are vital for development and for assuring peace and prosperity, including in those areas of the continent that are currently more affected than others by instability, insecurity, and serious humanitarian crises, such as neighboring Sudan and Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. But we also want our collaboration to be political at the multilateral level. We want to help strengthen the valuable work carried out daily by the African Union, ensuring greater consistency to the mediation activities carried out by the UN and the European Union and key international partners. We will continue to do our part because we are aware that the future of Italy and Europe also depends on a secure, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. It is often said in the many analyses of the troubled and complex times we are living in that history has started running again. This is true. And my opinion is that today it is running here. Africa is not a marginal chapter in this story, far from it. And those who do not understand this scenario risk being left behind. But those who understand this scenario see the reality. A continent with 1,000 peculiarities and 1,000 demands, some of which are very different from each other. A continent rich in resources, raw materials, and arable land, which can count on a decisive force in the age of knowledge, which is human capital. This is why Italy has focused much of its energy on training projects for young people, including in the field of artificial intelligence. In short, our point of view is that Italy and Europe cannot think about the future without taking Africa into proper consideration, because our future also depends on yours. Aware of this, Italy intends to continue to be a privileged bridge between Europe and Africa, making available the strength of its institutions, its great tradition of dialogue, and the expertise of its companies. We want to do this also to achieve another goal that we all consider momentous, to guarantee the men and women of this continent a freedom that has often been denied them. the freedom to choose to remain in their country, to contribute to its growth without being forced to leave it, often paying unscrupulous traffickers to risk their lives in an attempt to cross the Mediterranean. Those who believe that migration is necessary and indispensable are in fact acting selfishly. If young people leave their land and their people in pursuit of the promise of a better life, what will become of the history, culture, and existence of the country they have abandoned? These words are not mine, nor those of a political leader, but of a son who is proud of Africa and who holds Africa's future close to his heart, which is the Guinean Cardinal Robert Sarah. Clearly, in order to guarantee the right not to have to emigrate, it is necessary to offer concrete opportunities for training and work, to enhance human capital and improve the quality of education, invest in skills and educational systems, and create industrial partnership and joint ventures capable of generating stable, quality employment in the territories. This is our mission, which is being put into practice in the many initiatives that Italy is promoting, including together with the African Union. And what I would like to see today is, in this solemn place dedicated to another great son of a free and proud Africa, Nelson Mandela, is a great alliance between us to put training, research, university, and innovation at the center of our common commitment. An alliance aimed not at taking away talent, but at multiplying it and building a model of development that respects people and values different identities. Presidents, prime ministers, dear friends, Pliny the Elder, one of the most famous historians of ancient Rome, said that something new always arises from Africa. So my wish for each of us is that something new may truly arise from today's meeting, something that no one expects or that many considered impossible. For impossible is usually the word that people without courage use. Something capable of astonishing the world and suddenly making everything we have seen so far seem trivial. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Excellency. J'ai l'insigne honneur maintenant.
I have the honor now to invite His Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and the Chairperson of the African Union, to make his statement. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Assim tão alto.
His Majesty Mswati III of the Kingdom of Eswatini, His Majesty Letsi III of the Kingdom of Lesotho, His Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali, Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the host of the Assembly, His Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi and incoming Chairperson of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of States and Government of the African Union, His Excellency Prime Minister of the State of Palestine, His Excellency Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of the Council of Ministers of the Italian Republic, Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the UN, Excellency representatives of heads of states and government of the African Union, Excellency heads of delegations, Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps accredited in Addis Ababa, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is with the highest honor that, as a chairperson of the African Union, I take the floor to address your excellencies at this assembly to open the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, dedicated to a theme of strategic importance for the present and future of our continent, namely ensuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation system to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. I would like to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to His Excellency Abiy Ahmed Ali, Prime Minister of the Federal and Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and to the Ethiopian people for the warm welcome and generous hospitality extended to all delegations since our arrival in this country of particular importance to our continent by virtue of its history, and for hosting the headquarters of the African Union, the organization that unites all peoples of Africa. During this assembly, we will discuss issues of great importance for the functioning and growth of the African Union, as well as reflecting on the objectives set by the organization for the year that has just ended, on result achieved and what remains to be achieved. We will also endeavor to jointly chart the most appropriate course of action to ensure the effective operations of matters relating to water as a vital and irreplaceable resource and strategic resource essential to economic development, public health, food security, social stability, and peace in Africa. We will also highlight the need to work hard to ensure that access to drinking water and sanitation is not just a technical issue, but a potential and a moral commitment to our peoples, because despite the abundance of water resources on the continent, we continue to witness situations where African citizens are deprived of safe access to drinking water and adequate sanitation, which is a collective challenge that requires courageous, integrated, and sustainable responses. The efforts that we have undertaken to build the Africa we want cannot be fully realized without making significant investment that deliver tangible results in the water and sanitation sector. Only in this way we will ensure universal and equitable access to these services and fulfill the aspiration of Agenda 2063, particularly with regard to inclusive development, human capital, climate resilience, and good governance. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, exactly 1 year ago, the Republic of Angola assumed the chairmanship of the African Union with the firm determination to advance initiatives to contribute to the attainment of the overarching objective enshrined in the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, as well as for the effective operationalization of the issue related to the search for justice for Africans and people of African descent through reparations, a theme adopted by our organization for the year 2025. This mission, entrusted for the first time to my country, has allowed me to contribute with your support to the progress of our common cause based on shared values inspired by the founding fathers of the Pan-Africanism. Throughout this mandate, we have endeavored to strengthen the role of African Union as a platform for political coordination and concrete action, promoting a closer synergy between member states and the regional economic community, reinforcing preventive approaches to the impacts of climate change, mobilizing strategic partnership for the funding of resilient infrastructure, and reaffirming the following principles. Sustainable development is inseparable from stability and lasting peace. The full development of Africa will only be possible if no one is left behind. It is in this framework that Angola chairship was structured, upholding infrastructure and human capital as key pillars of Africa's comprehensive development, underpinned by fundamental strategic priorities, namely peace, security, and good governance, sustainable development and economic growth, continental integration, human capital and infrastructure, and the strengthening of strategic partnership and effective and inclusive multilateralism. As part of the implementation of the main objective focus on the above-mentioned theme, we worked in coordination with the African Union Commission to hold in Rwanda the third summit on financing for development of infrastructure in Africa that was held in October 2025. This event, aligned with the U.S. Africa Business Forum, held in June of the same year, and with the priority action defined at the continental level within the framework of the acceleration of the second 10-year implementation plan of the Agenda 2063 for the period 2024-2033, was a unique opportunity to articulate our national, regional, and continental development strategies in line with our ambition for growth, transformation, and regional integration. At the Infrastructure Summit and also at the Business Forum with the United States, we were able to unite Africa's key partners around the fulfillment of the commitments of the great development dream, and thus mobilize significant financial resources to invest in sectors like health, agribusiness, tourism, digital transformation, integrated economic corridors, rail network, transnational motorways, the African single electricity market, and the development of our African Aviation Master Plan. We recently announced in Dubai the launch of a major platform entrusted with mobilizing financial capital dispersed across the world to be directed to Africa within an innovative framework aimed at leveraging our natural resources for economic development and social development of our continent. This is the Global Summit for Investment in Africa, whose main promoter is Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, our well-known brother, which will have its first summit in Rwanda at the end of this year. By doing so, we have demonstrated that Africa is capable of mobilizing, plan, and act collectively to build solid foundation for a better future. In carrying out the initiative described above, we also aimed to emphasize the acceleration and the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area as a true engine of Africa's economic transformation and social transformation. This flagship project of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union has the potential to make us more stronger in a world increasingly marked by polarization, contributing for a meaningful integration, which remains one of the central pillars of our collective action. In this context, I'm confident that we will continue to work together to expand transnational transport projects and energy infrastructure aimed at connecting our peoples and our market, as the important investment in my country by Lobito Corridor, just to mention but one example. Without roads, without ports and adequate digital and energy networks, without consistent infrastructure, integration will remain an unattainable dream. Considering that Africa cannot be a spectator, but a central player in the transformation of the world for the preservation of its strategic interests, structural interests. We participated on behalf of the continent in the G20 summit, in the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD, in the African Union, European Union Summit, in the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Seville, and in the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Our participation in these events was extremely important for Africa because we took advantage of these occasions to defend our common position on issues of vital interest for our continent, such as the reforming of the international financial architectures in making it more inclusive, effective, and adapted to the current challenges, supporting the reduction of African countries' debt costs, and increasing access to sustainable financing, strengthening our renewable energy production capacity, increasing climate resilience, and social protection. We reaffirm our commitment towards multilateralism based on respect for international law and the United Nations Charter, and on the reform of the United Nations system, with particular emphasis on the Security Council, which must reflect the reality of the current world in order to ensure the balance between the different geopolitical interests and regain its ability to fully play its role as guarantor of world peace and security. We stand for the promotion of a CFTA as engine of continental economic integration as an important tool for global trade stability. In addition, we highlight the need to count on the support of our partners in investing in Africa's industrial development and transformation of our agricultural system to make them resilient to climate change. The Angolan President has also paid particular attention to the internal function of the African Union from the technical, legal, and administrative and organizational point of view. I would like to highlight the initiative of strengthening our general working methods by adopting a more agile, less bureaucratic model capable of leading to effective solutions and solid conclusions, supported by an agenda that can be addressed within a reasonable time frame. This effort, which is of consensus amongst member states, will lead to the adoption of a decision of great importance during this present session. In parallel, in the reforms of our organization for its better functioning, I would like to highlight and commend the commitment and dedication shown by His Excellency William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, and champion of institutional reforms, who will present us a consolidated report on the ongoing process. This document will reflect our desire to streamline African Union structures, contain administrative costs, and strengthen the coherence between institutional reforms and operational effectiveness and credibility of our continental organization. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, issues relating to the promotion of peace, security and stability in Africa have also been at the heart of our action, since any effort to build the Africa we want will only be possible if we succeed in realizing the dream of silencing the guns in Africa. We have undertaken a collective effort to achieve swift, robust and effective solutions to bring to an end the protracted conflicts that undermine the stability in the continent. Terrorism, violent extremism, and constitutional changes of government, with 2 new cases in Madagascar and in Guinea-Bissau, maritime piracy that makes security fragile in Africa. As the chairperson of the African Union, as champion for peace and reconciliation in Africa, we will continue to undertake actions to contribute to the resolution of the complex conflicts ravaging Sudan and the DRC. We are deeply concerned about the intensification of clashes between the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF, which have plunged the country into an unprecedented humanitarian crisis with thousands of deaths, massive population displacement, and essential infrastructure destroyed. It is important that the world turns its attention to this catastrophe unfolding in Sudan so that it can be resolved rapidly and protect the civilian populations. We must continue to join forces in helping the people of Sudan in finding the path to peace, harmony, and national reconciliation. With regard to the situation in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, notwithstanding the initiatives undertaken by the Republic of the Angola, Republic of Kenya, which followed the negotiation of ceasefire in Doha and peace accord in Washington, D.C., we continue to observe with concern the deterioration of the security and humanitarian situation marked by the recent occupation of new strategic position and the establishment of a parallel administration in the occupied territories occupied by M23. In order not to lose the gains achieved under the process of Washington and Doha, which recognize the need for inter-Congolese dialogue, Angola has developed initiatives to highlight the vital and urgent importance of the initiation of dialogue as a unique step towards national reconciliation and the achievement of lasting peace throughout the country. In the context of these efforts, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the diplomatic initiatives of His Excellency Faure Nyasimbe, President of the Council of Talk and mediator of the peace process in the Eastern DRC, who, in seeking African solution to African problems, has been developing actions that can help to preserve peace and security in this sisterly country. It is also of major concern the expansion of terrorist groups that continue to severely affect Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Nigeria and northern Cameroon, jeopardizing the security of population and the cohesion of states. Also in Somalia, despite the efforts of the federal government and the African Union through the Stabilization Support Missions AUSON, repeated terrorist attacks are weakening the entire region of the Horn of Africa, with impact in southern Africa, particularly in the northern of Mozambique. I therefore call on an increased support in all areas, including in greater advocacy among international partners, in particular within the UN Security Council, with a view to mobilizing additional resources that are essential for the success of this peace mission. I also take this stage to reiterate the African Union's firm position that rejects any initiative aiming at recognizing Somaliland as an independent entity, as this is a violation of principles of the Constitutive Act of the African Union and the norm of the inviolability of borders inherited from independence. The preservation of the sovereignty, territorial integrity and unity and stability of the Federal Republic of Somalia is non-negotiable. Africa has a strong institution that is capable of meeting the major challenge that our continent faces ahead, thanks to its approach to fundamental issues and its ability to coordinate the major initiatives that we have sought to implement in order to put Africa and place Africa in the path to development. The African Union enjoys growing prestige, as we can see from the interest from our partners in making their voices heard in our meetings, because they recognize our potential internally and the contribution that we can give in our resources to the development of humanity. And our internal resources has courageous yet sensible, moderate and balanced political position on international peace and security, on the global economy and trade, and the energy, food and humanitarian and climate crisis that the world faces currently. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a member of the Peace and Security Council for the period 2024 to 2026, my country has committed to strengthen this fundamental body of our continental organization and adapt the African peace and security architecture to the current challenges. We need to improve the effectiveness of our conflict prevention mechanism and conflict resolution so that African Union can strengthen its capacity to respond to crises that affect directly our member states. On this basis, and in view of the increased security crisis in Africa, we have decided to propose an extraordinary session of heads of state and government of the African Union in Rwanda that will be dedicated to analyzing solutions to address and respond to the threats to peace, security and development on our continent. I am convinced that this initiative could contribute significantly to strengthening the mechanism and means of conflict prevention and management and resolution of conflicts in Africa. We are witnessing to the emergence of new phenomena that should not be legitimated and endorsed by the African Union Peace and Security Council. When we talk on the need to restore constitutional order after power has been seized by unconstitutional means, we are not saying that it will be restored as long as the perpetrators of the coup d'etat hold elections and get themselves elected. This is a way of whitewashing an act that lacks legitimacy, which unfortunately is being seen as normal and therefore acceptable, when indeed it threatens the foundations of principles of and peace and security of the continent. This cannot become a norm of attaining power, because it will be an indirect way of encouraging coup d'etats, which are then whitewashed and everything is just fine. Ladies and gentlemen, and the contribution that the Republic of Angola has sought to make towards stability, peace and concord in our continent, we have been convening every 2 years in Luanda the Pan-African Forum for the Culture of Peace and Non-Violence in Africa, the Biennale of Luanda, a platform for dialogue, reflection and cooperation that brings together political leaders, academics, artists and representatives of civil society around the promotion of peace, tolerance and solidarity among the peoples of Africa. This event, which will celebrate in October this year, in partnership with the African Union in UNESCO, its fourth event will be held under the theme Strengthening Water Governance in Africa as a Tool for Conflict Prevention, Mediation and Resolution of Conflict, in alignment with the theme of the year 2026 adopted by our organization. In this context, I invite Excellencies to join us in Luanda and actively participate in this important event. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we live in an era of global geopolitical reconfiguration, making it essential that Africa to defend strong and common position on vital issues such as climate change, health, human rights, peace and food and security, and multilateralism, which should be seen as the most important tool for the restoration of the world world. In the current geopolitical context, marked by a worrying weakening of global governance institutions, has greatly undermined the positive advances made in the field of multilateralism in recent decades. This fragility is particularly acute in Africa, forcing us to redouble our efforts to defend our interests, our peoples, and our nations. Therefore, we must continue to build a stable, integrated Africa where conflicts are prevented and resolved by African mechanisms, ones that are strong and consistent. That is why I call on member states to adopt a more responsible and inclusive forward-looking governance, so that our institution can reflect the collective will that strengthens the confidence of our youth in our common project. Africa has the resources, knowledge, and political will necessary to turn its challenges into opportunities. What is required is consistent action, responsibility in implementation and solidarity among our states. This ordinary session should allow us to assess the progress, identify challenges, and above all, make clear commitments capable of producing real impact in the lives of our population. It should also reinforce our collective resolve to build a more resilient and fairer and more prosperous Africa in line with the vision of Agenda 2063 and legitimate aspirations of the African people. With this consideration, I hereby declare the 39th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Heads of States and Government of the African Union open. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Merci beaucoup, Votre
Thank you very much, Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, permit me now to invite His Excellency Ambassador Yusuf Assoumani, Ambassador of the Union of Comoros to Ethiopia and Parent Representative accredited to the African Union and Dean of Ambassadors in Ethiopia, to introduce the new Bureau of the AU Assembly for 2026. Ambassador, you have the floor. Excellency, Yao Lorenzo, President of the Republic of Angola and current Chairman of the African Union. Excellency, Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Excellency, Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Excellency, is Heads of State and Government of the African Union. Excellency Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy. Excellency Mohammed Mustafa, Prime Minister of the State of Palestine. Excellency Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General. Excellencies, Ministers of the African Union. Excellency Ambassador Malika Al-Dadi, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission. The Bureau of the Assembly of the African Union for 2026, pursuant to the rules and procedures of the Assembly. Chair, the Republic of Burundi. First Vice Chair, the Republic of Ghana. Second Vice Chair, the Republic of Tanzania. Third Vice Chair, for the third Vice Chair, regional consultations are still ongoing. Rapporteur, the Republic of Angola. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this is the proposal for the composition of the Bureau of the Assembly for 2026, and I thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, permit me now to proceed to the handover of the chairmanship of the African Union. I have the honor to invite His Excellency João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and outgoing Chair of the African Union, to deliver his remarks. Thank you, Excellency. You have the floor.
Sua Excelência Evariste.
Your Excellency Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi and incoming Chair of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government of African Union Member States, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies. It's a great honor and a feeling of fraternity that I convey to you on behalf of the Angolan people and myself my greetings to President Evariste Ndayishimiye as chair, incoming chair of the African Union. Mission on behalf of Africa, and we should base ourselves on the principle of unity, solidarity, and peace and stability, and inclusive development. Excellencies, in 2026, we have set ourselves the challenge of implementing a key issue for the African continent, which is to assure sustainable availability of water and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Access to safe drinking water and sanitation systems is a moral and political imperative that requires a firm commitment by government and its local governments, including partners, including companies, civic associations, and we will be better equipped to face this problem that Africa faces if we join forces. Mr. President, you have a complex and demanding mission ahead of you, which will absorb a large part of your energy, of your time, but I believe that it's worthwhile to look for solutions into which all of us are included so that we break this cycle of underdevelopment that we face, that has very promising perspectives if we focus our attention and energies to achieving this goal. At this moment, as I hand over the baton, I must acknowledge the remarkable work of the African Union Commission, its chairperson, the technical staff, and the entire team that accompanied me with dedication, competence, and unparalleled commitment, deserving of my highest commendation for their service to the cause of restoring dignity and defining a clear and tangible horizon of progress and development for what Africa is and will become in the future. Mr. President, I'm aware that all African nations look to you with the renewed and expecting you to carry forward with the dynamisms, the programs that we have designed, and we know that we will spare no efforts to provide our essential contributions to the success of your mission. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to welcome Evariste Ndayishimiye, President of the Republic of Burundi and the incoming chairperson of the African Union, for the handover ceremony and to deliver his acceptance speech. May you give me a round of applause, please. Excellency Ndayishimiye, please, you are welcome.
Excellence, félicitations.
Merci.
On va faire la passation. Le drapeau. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Ça va? Ok.
Bom, vamos então dar início a...
So we will now start our handover ceremony, starting with our union's flag. So this was the small flag. Now I will hand over the big one.